Hello, welcome to episode 32 of the Overtime Podcast with your host Tony Sixwing and my co-host Laura Quinting. And today apparently we're
Hi.
talking about stuff and I have no clue what we're talking about because this is an impromptu, hey, want to record an episode today via my co-host. So,
Yes. So, by the time you guys watch this, it will probably have already passed. But we did get word, a couple days ago that Michigan, at least, is extending their stay-at-home order till May 28th. A lot of people are up in arms about it, which I have no idea why, because right now we have a shit ton of cases that magically came up. But yet people are still like, no, we should open everything back up.
well, here's the problem with that, Laura. It's getting to the point that the cure is about to become worse than the disease. And Governor Halfwit up there decided to tell people they couldn't buy seeds for their gardens and paint for their houses.
They just lifted that. You can now go fishing and they opened up all the flower places.
Yes. You see, and that'll get some people to calm down. Now, I had an interesting thing where I pretty much told one person who was wondering why those people were armed. I told at the Capitol, I said, yeah, they were armed. It was for intimidation, to intimidate the government into listening to the people. And I hate to tell everyone, but executive orders are not laws. They cannot be used, even in a state of emergency, to tell the general population what to do. You will need to declare a martial law for that, and there has been no authorization of such action on a federal or state level in any state or in the federal government. Which means these executive stay-at-home orders are voluntary. They are not legally binding
Then why are they fining people?
because most people don't know that they can't find them. Shoot, you've heard of civil forfeiture, haven't you, where they charge you money with a crime in order to steal it from you without due process?
Yeah,
You think the government's going to admit that they're violating the Constitution?
no.
Exactly. So yeah, the firearms were there for intimidation. They were there to intimidate the government into saying, okay, one, we have the right to peaceably assemble. Yeah, we're holding these, but we're not rioting. We might be chanting, but we're not rioting, though they forced their way into the Capitol building. But hey, they paid for it with their tax dollars. I think every American has every right to be in every Capitol building because we're a nation of the people, by the people, and for the people. But I mean, I get what some people think that people took it a little too far, but Governor Whitmer up there has pretty much said that she's not going to follow what her legislature tells her to do, which she has to follow both under federal and state constitutions and legally speaking, and said she will not cave to legal pressure or political pressure. Political pressure I can get not caving to, but you don't get a choice when it's legal pressure. Like the legislature is trying to sue her for not listening to them and going beyond the powers of the executive office of the state.
Hmm.
Essentially, she overreached a lot. And
Well,
so
what's your governor doing?
my governor is going to have our state open back up by July 4th. He's doing it slowly, but there was about to be protests in my state about opening things back up, and he didn't shut us down as much as anybody else. In fact, he told our state police, don't go looking to ticket people or anything else for being out. It was more of a guideline than an order.
Hmm.
So really, if any of those fines or anything had gone to a court, which they have to, when they issue you a fine, when the government issues you a fine, they have to take you to court and get the court order to make you pay that fine. Like when you get a ticket, you can either just pay the ticket or go to traffic court and fight it.
Is the numbers themselves per day on average semi going down?
Yes, the numbers of new cases are going down. But there's always going to be new cases. These people who think that we have to wait till there are no new cases to open back up are dreaming. It's a virus. It's out there. You
People are saying that some countries have completely obliterated it, like New Zealand.
No, they haven't, and neither is China. China's actually got new lockdowns going down, and they're not keeping it quiet. But China did not defeat this thing. They just pretended they did so they could put their people back to work.
Hmm.
So yeah, no. And the numbers haven't been consistent at all. I mean, based on what we're being told about the contagiousness about this thing, and when it started in China, if the spread rate is what they're trying to say it is, then we should have all been infected long before anybody even realized we needed a lockdown. Because they tried to say in 30 days everyone in the world will be infected. This started at the beginning of January. And China waited 2 to 3 weeks to finally do something about it. Which means if it's as contagious as they say, why haven't we all got it?
Right.
Here's the thing. This is highly contagious, and for some people it is deadly. For some people the common cold is deadly. Here's the thing. It is a 98 point some percent at this time survival rate. Less than 1% of the global population has this thing. It is not going to end the human race. But what we have to think is, yeah, tens of millions of people may die, but are we willing to risk billions of lives by collapsing all the economies and causing complete social collapse just to save a few million? I hate to make it a numbers game like I've been doing in a lot of these episodes, like I said before, but it is what it is. So you have to balance the idea of a new homeless crisis and economic collapse causing much more harm than the virus ever will versus the harm the virus is going to cause. Because reality is a cost benefit analysis, a rather impartial one.
Right, but people are saying, "Oh, well, you guys, it's only been 2 months. Like, the Black Plague was way longer than that. The
And in the Black Plague, they didn't shut everything down and quarantine people. People still went about their business. And also, they were mostly serfs, and people who lived off the land. Which means they could handle this sort of thing. And it didn't end up in the rural areas. The cities were really the only guys being hit.
or what about like when all the famine and slavery and all that shit happened? That happened for way longer than 2 months."
Yeah, it's called a food shortage. Once again, people knew how to live off the land, how to make their own things. You see, until America really took off and created the commerce uh, way of doing things, there was no such thing as money, except if you were very wealthy. Like money, coin money, and whatnot, and merchants and goods like that were only really sent between nobles. Most of the commoners, they were told to farm a land for a noble, and then they get to keep part of that crop for themselves and for barter for themselves, and they had to give the rest to the nobleman as tax, who then also had to give some of that to the king as a tax.
Hmm.
So what we need to realize is people have become far more dependent on money and modern technology than they used to be. Our society is no longer set up with these skills and know-how to survive a thing like this without drastically realizing that we screwed up here. Because here's the thing is, communism does not work because you run out of other people's money.
Right.
And in order to keep it going, you have to suppress and enslave a lot of people and gulags, forced labor, that sort of thing.
Like with the unemployment thing, we
Exactly.
cannot afford to have people on unemployment for months on end. Unemployment was when it first came out initially for people to you're off work for like a couple weeks. We're going to pay you in between, but you need to at least be looking for a job.
Well, here's the thing with that. When unemployment was put into place, people had the ability to save. People did not finance everything. Okay? People were paid at that point, the minimum wage at 40 hours a week was a living wage. You could make a living, even raise a small family on minimum wage. Now, you weren't going to raise a huge family, live in a mansion, but you had food on the table for you, your wife, and maybe one or two kids. You know,
Right.
it wasn't lavish, but you were able to do it. Sometimes with a small amount of government assistance. The minimum wage was not meant as a lot of people say, a college kid's or a teenager's wage. No, the reason it's a minimum wage was supposed to be the minimal survivable amount of money. Now, because we did not tie it to inflation, and we also allowed rent to go out of control through a lot of landlords who borrowed money to buy their properties and then rented them out so they could make profit but still had to pay the mortgage and everything. So they were highly leveraged. That rent and the cost of goods outpaced the cost of labor and what people could make in an hour. The last time I'll look it up real quick. The federal minimum wage issue 5 series. Not what I wanted. Department of Labor. The federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. And for anyone under the age of 20 for the first 90 days can make as little as $4.25 an hour. Although I think that's slightly different. Depends on the states, really. But if we go at the history of that, that went into, okay, $4.25 an hour or $7.25 an hour went into effect if I can freaking find the thing here. Dang it. But I think the last time it was updated was in history minimum wage law. Okay. Last time it was updated. What the heck? I used to be able to find a nice chart. Okay, here it is. Last time it was updated was July 24th, 2009. It was raised by a whole 70 cents. And if you go back to, and if I go to an inflation calculator, the first minimum wage was 25 cents an hour in 1938. Okay. So I go to 1938. Of course, my stupid, whatever that's doing. 38. And we're going to do 0.25. Okay, so it would have been 458 that year. So it would have been a little lower, yada, yada, yada. Because there was inflation and deflation and all that stuff. But if I go back to 1974, it was $2 an hour. So we calculate that. Okay, so in 1974, places were paying the equivalent of $10.47 an hour minimum wage. In today's money. And today they're getting told that they're going to have to extremely increase wages or prices because of paying more than $7.25 an hour.
Mm.
So there's all that. And if I do the 2009 at what the minimum wage has been, $8.72 an hour. So over the last 11 years, at minimum, people have lost almost $1.50 an hour in wages if they worked a minimum wage job for the last 11 years. They've essentially lost $1.50 an hour. So it's as if they were making $5.75 or something like that, if you get that at all. So wages have been going down, and prices have been going up, and the size of what people give to you has been going down too. If you notice, they've shrunk all the packaging, shrunk the portions at restaurants. The prices have stayed the same on the menu, although sometimes they've still gone up a little bit, and the portions have been shrank. So wages that are stagnant are going down.
Yeah.
And it's unsustainable. You have to make it at least a living wage so at least a single person can afford a one-bedroom apartment that's not in the middle of the ghetto.
Right. People don't want to be living in the ghetto.
And we can do a whole episode later on about the ghetto and what's going on there. Because while racism did set it up in the past, it isn't necessarily completely racism that keeps it that way now. But that's a discussion for another episode. But the point is, because of all that stuff with the minimum wage and wages being stagnant and people who aren't even on minimum wage who are making substantially more than that and still have to borrow on everything, after 2.5 months, people are going to have started to miss mortgage payments and rent payments and car payments and credit card payments. And when all that debt defaults, it's not a good thing.
Right, because the thing is, everyone's like, oh, well, unemployment will take care of us. Like, we have all this money. The government's, one, running out of money, and two, not everyone's even getting their unemployment right now because they're so fucking backed up.
Yes, that, and guess what? You say the government... Do you guys know where the government gets their money? From the taxpayers. If everyone's unemployed, nobody's paying any taxes every week into the system. Which means the money they're giving you runs out.
Right, which is why, I think right now, unemployment has been the highest it has legitimately ever been, even since, the Great Depression.
Let's see. Current unemployment. If it's above 25%, you will be correct. But let's go look. Current unemployment rate is at 20.2%. We are 4.8% away from hitting Great Depression levels. At the height of the Great unemployment rate, let's look. I'm going to go look at the Great Depression real quick. The highest rate of unemployment in the Great Depression was 24.9% in 1933.
Mm.
So we haven't quite hit the record yet, but we're well on our way.
So, what you're telling me is we are 3% away when it comes to unemployment from reaching Great Depression level.
Height of Great Depression levels. Yeah. It didn't drop below 14% during the entire Great Depression. We're already at Great Depression levels, but we haven't beaten the peak of it.
Oh, damn.
So the peak was about 25%, so you're looking at Yeah, we are getting close there, and more people losing their jobs every day. And well, yes, we can bounce back from this a lot faster because we don't have the socio-economic thing of debts from wars, war debts. We don't have the Weimar Republic going on. We don't have a lot of infighting still happening because World War One never truly ended till the end of World War Two. Some of the fighting actually went from World War One all the way into World War Two, and in China the fighting didn't stop till the Chinese Communist Party took over and the Republic of China moved to Taiwan. It's now known as the country of Taiwan, which Chinese government does, which a lot of countries do not even recognize as a sovereign nation because of pressure from the communist China.
Hmm.
So there's that. So Taiwan is the last bastion of the army that was fighting against the Chinese Red Army, the People's Liberation Army in China. Their civil war went on for a very long time. And so essentially, what you have going on here is people are heavily armed because they're afraid of the neighbors, what the neighbors are going to do in a panic. They do not have the skills to survive off the land like they used to. And they've been tricked into thinking that if you can't afford it now, finance it by all the banks who wanted to get everyone in debt to them so they can make so much interest money. And then the government lowers interest rates to try to get people to borrow more money.
I think student loan debt interest is gone. Like you can't even make payments.
Oh, you can make payments if you wish, but you're not required to make a payment till September, and you have zero interest, so it won't
My
grow.
boyfriend tried making a payment. He said he couldn't.
I heard you
Who do you
could.
go through?
I go through Great Lakes, but
Oh, what's your payment that you go through? Navient he goes through.
he might be different.
Well,
But you're supposed to still be able to make payments if you can afford to. But
strange. The two topics I wanted to touch on today was um, as you guys know, I like TikTok and I follow the news and drama and whatever that happens on TikTok. Well, a bunch of these large TikTok influencers are under fire because a decent amount of them happen to live in Los Angeles, where, a bunch of these actors, media influencers, whatever, they go to live out their dreams and yada, yada, yada. Well, anyways, Texas has recently opened up and crap like that. So, like, 20 people decided to go get an Airbnb in Texas, and everyone's like, y'all aren't social distancing. And then they made themselves worse by, they had like this, um, big house that they all lived in. It was like 4 or 5 like dudes, and they basically had this one dude that lived with them, and they're all friends supposedly, making content together, but didn't decide to tell him that they were leaving for Texas. He literally woke up and noticed them all gone. So there's drama with that as well. What are your thoughts on a situation like that?
I think it's stupid internet BS that really doesn't matter in the end.
Well, I think that, when people decide to be selfish and make a decision like traveling before you're recommended to, having that many people like move into a different state for a week is not safe.
It's their decision. They're just being stupid.
Right, it's their decision, but at the same time, like, they're young people, but if they spread this around to a bunch of old people, it's no longer just about them.
Oh, here's part of the thing. You already don't want to do Airbnb ever. Because there was actually an Adams Ruins Everything episode on that. And turns out a bunch of them are not up to code. Some of them don't have working fire detectors. And at one time, someone Airbnb'd out their house, and the person stayed and became a squatter.
What's that?
It's when a person won't leave, and then you have to go through eviction proceedings to get them out. because if someone stays in a house more than I think a week or something like that, they're considered a resident, and you have to evict them. That's why some hotels will only let you stay so long, because after a certain amount of time, they cannot remove you from the premises without eviction papers.
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, that's why a lot of hotels say we don't do long term stay. Like, you can go spend 2 weeks somewhere, but you can't spend a month there.
Right, that makes sense. Because at that point, it's almost close to rent.
Yeah, essentially at that point, you've become a tenant.
Right. And then the next thing that I wanted to bring up was a post that I saw. So basically, I'm in this group that is regarding the old hometown that me and Tony are from. Well, anyways, this one lady made a statement saying, well, I'm gonna effing boycott Meyer because not everyone was wearing masks. And there's multiple things I want to say on that topic. One is, does it look like they fucking have enough people to check if everyone's wearing masks? They do not have enough staff to keep up with that. Two, you're really gonna boycott a large grocery store for not keeping up on something that is not the easiest thing to keep up on.
Well, come on, it's Meyer.
I mean, they're trying
There
their
are
hardest,
there are
and
better reasons to boycott Meyer than not than the fact that people aren't wearing masks. How about the fact that the stores are outdated, they're overpriced, you can never find anything. Need I go on? There are far better reasons to not shop at Meyer than simply say, not everyone's wearing a mask.
well, I feel like also in Michigan they've almost become kind of like a mini monopoly. Like, there's far more Meijer than there are Walmart and Target.
Well, yeah.
And also, they
But in
drive
Michigan,
competition.
most people I know either go to Spartan stores, especially in northern Michigan, or go to the Walmart that's in a near enough town that they can just buy some hot cold bags because it's cheaper to
Right.
drive. Because man, I remember when I was a kid, before our hometown had a super Walmart, we would do once a month we would drive to Cadillac to go to their super Walmart, because even with the fuel, it was cheaper to go get our groceries there for the entire month than to go to Meyer every week.
Right. Because
Despite
Meijer is not cheap. Like, you can get a couple things and the bill's $50 somehow.
Yeah, Meyer's way overpriced, and they pay their employees less than Walmart does.
Right. I know, because I've worked at Meijer before.
Meyer is worse to work for than Walmart. Overpriced. The stores are outdated. You can never find anything in there, like I've said before. The inside feels run down every time I go into one.
But, like, it just threw me off that people are being, like, this way over people not wearing masks. Like,
Here's the
if
thing:
we.
unless someone coughs in your face, the mask ain't gonna help. The reason they told people to wear masks is because some people are asymptomatic, and it was to catch the big particles from you coughing or talking, from spitting out, catch it before it gets into it becomes aerosolized.
Right.
Essentially, catch your spit particles in your mask.
And I agree that, people should be wearing masks, but at the same time, like, all of these big grocery stores are highly, highly understaffed. They do not have 10 different employees able to sit there and make sure people are wearing masks. That's just not how it is.
Well, there is a way to fix that. You have an employee at each door that is stopping everyone and making sure they're wearing a mask when they come in the door. There's only two entrances.
Yeah, I mean, they could do that, and I'm sure some stores are doing that.
But
But, like, to ban a store because of something like that just seems Stupid.
Yeah, it's stupid. That's why I said there are far better reasons to not shop at Mayo. It's like everyone comes up with the dumbest reason not to do something. It's like, I can list off 20 better reasons to not do something for the last 10 years. I'm like, I never shopped there anyways because of this. Well, I never did that anyways because of that. It's like, everyone's saying, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. It's like, I already didn't do that on a regular basis.
People are taking this whole thing like just so.
That's because the news has everyone thinking that this thing is as bad as the Black Death, which it's not.
I mean, economically, it's starting to become that way.
No, the Black Death really didn't have an economic impact because of the time it hit. It just killed a lot of people.
What was the Black Death?
The Black Death was that thing that hit with the pus and the nodules. Bubonic plague, we believe it was.
Oh, right.
You know, the plague. And but then on top of that, if you notice throughout history, each plague usually kills about 50 million worldwide and then burns itself out.
How does it burn itself out?
Huh?
How does it
How?
burn itself out?
How?
Yeah.
People build up immunities, it moves on from places, then it comes back later on. Essentially, there are going to be plagues, and a lot of people are going to die. You want to know what I really think is stupid? Everyone thinks that this damn thing is a plague out of the book Revelation.
Okay, so I am. I'll admit it. I'm more religious than Tony, which isn't saying that much. But there was this meme that I did laugh at, and my boyfriend, who also is, we're not gonna call him straight A Christian, but he believes in God. Well, we were laughing at this meme, and it was SpongeBob holding a blank piece of paper, and the meme said, "All of the things God has done to help this pandemic," and we both laughed at it. Did we feel like we were being horrible for laughing? Yes. Was it still funny? Yes. Because when it comes to memes, not only are they, shitting real life, but if you can't laugh at the miserable time that you're having, then, all of us would be a lot more depressed than we already are.
And just so you guys know, if I died from this, I died inside long ago.
Yes.
It's I'm already dead inside. The virus can just take care of the outside. Which
Yes.
is a dark joke, but it's still a little funny. Because dark humor is the funniest humor I have ever come across. I do enjoy some dark humor. But everyone thinks this is like the. I could see it becoming the end of society because of the way people are reacting and the economic impact and stuff. But hello, the Spanish flu. You had great economic upheaval. World War One was going on. There was a little mini depression type thing. And you guys think this is the end of the world?
I
Hello?
mean, how many people have died so far from this thing?
Um.
I mean, obviously that number is vastly underreported because we know China is not saying shit.
China's
But
lying.
statistically, right now, what is in the books?
Statistically, worldwide, 247,000.
Okay, what did World War II give for deaths?
75 million.
So there you go.
Not to mention the 20 to 30 million that hit that Stalin killed in his purges. The
But is it confirmed that Kim Jong Un is still alive?
Yeah, it is. He's been seen out. But okay, Stalin killed 20 to 30 million people in his purges. Hitler killed 6 million Jews. Mao Zedong.
Saddam Hussein, you mean?
No. I'm talking about Chairman Mao Zedong.
Oh.
Killed 20 to 46 million people between 1958 and 1962 in his great leap forward to transform China from an agrarian to an industrial powerhouse. So, yeah, humans will cause far more than this stuff. The Spanish flu was 50 million
Oh, wow.
over the course of about 2 to 3 years.
I think it's getting to the point where people are so freaked out about this whole mask thing, social distancing thing, that people are gonna like literally try to shoot the first thing that comes near them within 10 feet.
The Great Plague of London killed 75,000 in 1965 to 1966, approximately. That was just a plague in London. This thing, 247,000. So, we've had much, though this thing is only a few months old, we've had much deadlier plagues.
How long was the World War II? A year?
World War II?
Yeah.
No one really knows when I'll look it up, but World War II dates. It says it started September 1st, 1939, September 2nd, 1945. So about 6 years. But you have to remember, we don't know when it started because there's a lot of contradicting stuff. World War II may have started as early as 1935 or 1934.
We were dealing with a war for that fucking long?
Well, World War II was not one war.
Oh, right.
There was the American-Japanese War, the American-German War, the British-German War, the French-German War, the Russian-German War, and the Russian-Japanese War. You had the Sino-Japanese War, which was Japan versus China, which in of itself was in the middle of fighting a civil war between the communists and the non-communists. Then you have a bunch of brush wars in Africa between the colonies of the remaining empires. Then you have a bunch of fighting in the Middle East because that is being carved up to create the countries that were created now that all want to kill each other because we didn't let them decide who they wanted to stay with. America and Europe just decided to draw the borders for them. Seriously, 90% of the world's problems right now can be traced back to decisions at the end of World War One and the end of World War Two. And I'm not even joking. The treaties that ended those wars, followed by the Cold War, probably caused 90 to 95% of the world's problems right now. The other 5% is people trying to use race to excuse bad behavior, going after profit, short-term profit, while losing long-term gains because, hey, instead of paying everyone a living wage so that the economy grows indefinitely, because as long as, wages and prices and everything just keep going up, more money keeps flowing through and whatnot, No, let's just make wages go down so we can pay essentially what we're paying in places like China, to the point that nobody can afford anything, and set up another Great Depression. Because we don't realize that if we just pay everyone a living wage, we ourselves will benefit in the long run because we want to benefit in the short term. Oh, and by the way, let's borrow a bunch of money to buy back a bunch of our stock to drive up our stock price because we got a law passed saying we have to put the stock price first before the actual good of the business. Because they legally have to go after getting a higher stock price instead of going after what's going to be good for the business and the economy.
Aren't stock rates like super low right now?
Right now, the stocks are plummeting because nobody can go to work. And also, did you know, guys? Because of 401ks, the stock market's value is about 400% of what it should be. That's 4 times. So take your stock, take 1/4 of that, and that's how much it actually should be worth. But because of 401ks, buyback through leveraging, essentially we build our entire economy on debt and unsustainable wage stagnation. Welcome to America, where we do things in the stupid way.
Well, all of these countries are like shitting on us right now for this virus, and I'm like, yeah, we're not a perfect country or anything, but
Here's the thing: everyone's going about, oh, America has the most blah blah blah. It's like we're the third largest country on the planet by population, and India hasn't really been hit yet.
yeah, they have.
Huh?
I said, yeah, they haven't. Like,
So,
China's the biggest, right?
China's the biggest, and they're lying about their numbers. So, okay, they currently have 40,000 confirmed deaths in India.
What are we at? In India?
I mean, confirmed cases. 40,000 confirmed cases. Okay? In India.
What are we at?
It was updated May the 3rd. What are we at?
Yeah.
1.8 million confirmed cases. 1.18 million.
Okay.
Okay, we have about a third of the planet's confirmed cases that are being reported. Now, granted, everyone, China potentially has millions of cases and millions of deaths that have been unreported. There are several thousand or maybe tens of thousands. It's probably more like in the millions based on surrounding evidence. Right. Now, India has just recently been hit. India was one of the last countries to even get hit. So, and India is a very poor country.
Right.
They can't shelter in place there. They will starve. So, essentially, India's going to be hit harder than anywhere else. And when you're saying who's the hardest hit, you need to do it in percentage, not gross, not bare numbers, because if you don't do it by percentage, you're going to make it look like it's worse in this country when it's not actually worse in that country. It just looks that way because they have more people. Right, humanity is not equally distributed across the planet.
We can't say that, oh, the U.S. is worse than, like, Bolivia. Bolivia only has 11 million people that live in it.
Exactly. And then you have to remember this, too. America has 330 million Americans. That doesn't count the illegals, who we don't have a count for because they're illegally in hiding.
Right.
So, let's say 400 million on the outside. You know, just because you don't know how many, so I'll put it at a high number, you know. So let's put the max at about 400 million. So, 400 million people in America. 1.18 million cases. That means 1/4 of 1% of the population has been confirmed to have this virus.
Right.
I'm not exactly scared. There are millions of people in New York and 40 maybe 50,000 confirmed cases or something like that.
Right.
So that's the thing. And they're leaving SS Delables over there.
I mean, Michigan is kind of bad right now, though.
Yeah, but that's mostly in Lansing and Detroit. And Flint.
Yeah.
You know, the poor spots. The shitholes.
I mean, apparently my area is getting hit pretty hard, so...
Yeah. Well, your area is half shithole, half good, half decent place to live. That city's like the one decent city in Michigan.
Yeah.
Yes, everyone, the bigger cities in Michigan are all kind of hellholes. It's just kind of how things are. But what I was trying to say is this. The reason you cannot use other countries to do what you're going to do in America. Is the reason you can't say I can do this in China, but I can't. I can do this in America, but I can't do it in, let's say, China. Now, China, they can do what they want. They're a communist nation where money isn't really an issue because, well, you're a totalitarian dictatorship. You can just force people to do things for you without pay. But on the flip side of that, because notice, even communist countries, which by their definition shouldn't have money, and do actually have a form of economy going. But, so you say you have something like Denmark that has universal health care.
Right.
And even they're having to find a new way to pay for it. Denmark, if I look at the population of Denmark has 5.8 million people.
How do they afford this universal health care?
Because they only have 5.8 million people.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
So they can afford it because there's so few people. Because
like we couldn't do it in our
because you're going on 400 million if you include illegals in the program. There's a huge difference between 5.8 million and 400 million. You're looking at almost 10 times the cost.
Like,
and it's already
universal health care.
And Denmark can barely afford it where they have it.
Right.
And they're having to think about starting to charge people premiums on top of the high taxes, on top of this and on top of that. So you have to start realizing the bigger you make something, the more it costs. And these costs are not linear, they are exponential.
Well, what about Medicare? Would you consider that like free for some people in the U.S.? Like,
Medicare is not free.
Well, not free, but basically one of my friends is on disability and she gets pills and medication.
That's Medicaid.
Dental care for like very cheap.
Yeah, that's a form of universal health care, but it kind of sucks, and they also won't pay for a lot of stuff that you actually need because they'll go down the cheaper route even if it won't work. That's another problem with universal health care. And even in Great Britain, they have universal health care, right? You still have to pay for the ambulance.
Right.
And even us, we have our Medicare. Go meet someone who's on Medicare. It's not fun. You have to, you get the free stuff, but then you have to purchase and pay premiums on parts B, C, and D, so that you can get your dental, your vision, and the rest, and your regular doctor.
So there's probably a very small percentage of people in the U.S., my friend included in that actually are getting a pretty sweet deal from this.
Yeah. And it would not stay that way long if they try to give everyone that sweet deal. Right. Granted, hospitals do overcharge. The medication industries, pharmaceutical companies do overcharge people. And when that's the case, well, then we need to start looking at the price gouging that the medical industry is causing. Because I understand needing to charge a lot because you have this huge medical school debt that you need to pay off as a doctor. But if you have a multi-million-dollar house and you're driving a Mercedes because you're a doctor, you don't care about your patients. You're in it for the money. Yeah. Especially if you don't have your student loan paid off.
Exactly.
And I personally think in exchange for lowering the amount of money they're allowed to pay, I think if someone graduates medical school, that should be a government-funded, we will pay for you to go to medical school sort of degree.
Right.
You're going to try to help save people's lives and take care of people's health. So say, we will pay for you to go to medical school. I don't mind paying my taxes to help train new doctors to try to help people.
There was some controversy. People saying that hospitals are like unintentionally, but in a way intentionally killing people with this virus through the ventilators. Have you heard that?
Well, if they're not being properly cleaned between people, there could be some cross contamination. And also, if you're on the vent too long, the vent itself can kill you because the ventilator will also damage your lungs. 80% of the people who go on the vent don't live. If you go on the vent, you have an 80% chance of dying.
What?
Uh-huh.
So most of these cases of people dying, would you say it's because they tried to live on the ventilator but didn't?
Potentially.
Well, is there like anything to back up that, or is that just?
From what I heard was about 80% of the people who go on the vent don't come off.
Oh, damn. So in a way, is it better to like ride this thing out? Like, what would you say?
Well, the ventilator is intensive care. So those 80% that die on the vent would have died sooner without the ventilator.
Okay.
Okay?
And these are people who got corona that it's like serious as hell for them, right?
Yeah, this is intensive care. This is serious as hell. They don't just put you on a vent to put you on a vent. They start with trying to just give you oxygen,
Right.
stuff like that. Because the vent, after so long, will damage your lungs in itself, and that can kill you too from being on a vent too long. And the ventilator, essentially, it gives them a fighting chance. It's not much of a fighting chance, but 1 in 5 is better than 0.
Right. So the ventilator is supposed to help you breathe in a way.
It is supposed to help you breathe. Just because 80% of the people go on it don't come off, 100%. If nobody went on it, then 100% of the people that needed to go on it wouldn't have lived. So though 80% are still dying, 20% are living, thanks to the ventilator.
Right.
And that's better than nothing. If these people are going to die anyways, better to give them at least a 1 in 5 chance, at least 20% chance than a 0% chance.
So the people that are having these respiratory breathing problems because of coronavirus, are these like old people or people with pre-existing health conditions?
Mostly, and the people with the people that really have anything beyond mild symptoms are only about 20% of cases.
Hmm.
So you're looking at with what it is, so you're looking at less than 1% of the people that even get this die and whatnot. So, it's kind of one of those things. We're shutting down a country for all this stuff. They're saying, well, it's the speed of this thing. Swine flu killed more people than this thing has so far in our country.
I don't think we even shut anything down for swine flu, did we?
Neither did we. And we don't shut everything down with the regular flu. I get why people are fearful. I get what's going on, but here's the thing: this this lockdown has been politically engineered to try to create totalitarian states in all countries on the planet and eliminate democracy. That's what I think. I think this
I don't know.
lockdown was
I
engineered.
think the governors, like, I think their intention is to keep people safe.
And I think every left-wing governor, such as Whitmer's, intention is to gain power. Whitmer is not much of a leap, since she likes to reroute tax funds away from what she said she was going to use them for when she raises your taxes. Or says,
it's not like they're trying to keep us safe, though.
huh?
I feel like they're trying to keep us safe.
Laura, just understand the largest lie ever told. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's getting close to the end of the episode. So I guess
we were at we're at 55 minutes.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see you guys next week. Well,
You're,
many
when are
weeks
you
from now.
uploading this?
Well, I'm about to upload. I'll probably upload it tonight or tomorrow. But right now, we have through episode 31 queued and episode 28 premiered today.
Do we
So
get any likes?
I do not see any. We have one like and one view.
Oh,
So
from our last episode.
uh, 4 episodes ago.
Oh, okay.
Well, last
You
episode
sound
won't.
tired.
I am.
Oh, did you work too hard today?
Ha ha ha. Anyways, we will see
Well,
you
you
guys
said you're
next
still
time.
working.
Yeah, but it's Sunday. Anyways,
It's
we'll see you
Sunday.
guys next time.
Bye.
Have a good one.